afternoon, class, and thank you for being here with me today. Today we're going to be talking about community policing. Community policing is a strategy of policing that focuses on building ties and working with members of the community. There are many goals and methods of community policing, and they are all utilized and successful in communities and police agencies today. At the end of this presentation, each student should be able to define community policing, list at least 3 methods of community policing, understand the goal of community policing, and each student will know the history on community policing. Before I begin, does anybody have any questions? Okay. Community policing is a philosophy of full-service, personalized policing, where the same officer patrols and works in the same area on a permanent basis from a decentralized place, working in a proactive partnership with citizens to identify and solve problems. The Vancouver Police Department is one of my favorite examples on an agency that takes part in the community policing. Vancouver itself holds 10 community policing centers, which are all operated, staffed, and governed by members of the community. Vancouver Police Department has a block watch, and the block watch is all about neighbors helping neighbors. Households, apartments, and condominiums on a block form a communication chain aided by a map of names, telephone numbers, and addresses. Participants watch out for each other's homes and report suspicious activities to the police and to each other. This communication is crucial in reducing the likelihood of a residential crime. The Block Watch was created in Seattle in 1974, and participating homes saw a reduce in break-ins by 48 to 62%. Now that is huge. Vancouver Police Department also has a Citizens Crime Watch. In 1986, the Vancouver Police Department formed the Citizens Crime Watch, which is also known as the CCW program, where citizens volunteer their time to provide the police with extra eyes and ears on Vancouver streets on Fridays and Saturday nights between 7 p.m. and 2 a.m. CCW members patrol as a team of 2 using their own vehicle. And how does it operate? Well, CCW volunteers are trained and coordinated by a police constable who will work with the volunteers as they patrol the streets of Vancouver. Each car is supplied with an ICOM radio so that they are in constant contact with their own base radio operator and the coordinator. Volunteers observe the activity around them and call in to report any criminal or suspicious activity. Members may be asked to pay special attention to neighborhoods that are experiencing a rash vandalism, arson, or theft from auto crimes. Since 1994, CCW has recovered over 4,000 stolen vehicles. That's a lot of vehicles. The coordinator will respond to any situation the volunteers observe that requires the attention of police, such as an assault or purse snatching or theft from auto in progress. Now, volunteers do not get actively involved with situations, and they leave that to the patrol officer that they're working with. Geographical assignments are based on crime analysis information and projects combined with requests from various police units. Today, there are over 100 adult CCW volunteer members from all age groups and from all walks of life who all make positive contribution to crime fighting in our community. Volunteers achieve a great sense of accomplishment with the knowledge that they are making a difference in the fight against crime in their community and making their neighborhoods safer. They meet with people with similar values and community spirit who enjoy working in a team-oriented environment. Their volunteer work is interesting, unique, and different from their usual workday activities. They learn about the role of law enforcement in Canadian society and also have an opportunity to attend special seminars related to their CCW volunteer activities. Now, there is a selection process. Individuals who meet the selection criteria may be invited to an interview. This selection process will determine the candidate's suitability to the program. Now, there are many methods of community policing. I'm going to show you guys a PowerPoint presentation that I would love for you guys to follow along, as this is long, and I'll need you to follow it with me. So, community policing. Encouraging the community to help prevent crime by providing advice, giving talks to schools, encouraging neighborhood watch groups, and a variety of other techniques are some of the most popular methods of community policing. Other methods of community policing include, but are not limited to, an increase of foot or cycle patrols, increased officer accountability to the communities that they are supposed to serve, creating teams of officers to carry out community policing in designated areas, clear communication between the police and the communities about their objective strategies, partnerships with other organizations such as government agencies, community members, nonprofit service providers, private business, and the media. Decentralizing the police authority, allowing more discretion amongst lower ranking officers, and more initiative expected from them. Now, can I get somebody to name me 3 methods of community policing? Troy, go ahead.
So, would one of them be an increased use of foot or cycle patrols?
Yes.
And then another one could be you have clear communication between the police and the communities about their objectives and their strategies.
Yes.
And I think a third one would have to say would be partnerships, like with other organizations such as government agencies, community members, nonprofit services, and private businesses.
Yes. Perfect, Troy. Now, where were we? Okay. There's a goal of community policing, and this is a very important goal. The goal is to assist the public in establishing and maintaining safe, orderly, and social environments, while apprehending criminals is one of the important goals of community policing. It is not necessarily the most important goal. Community policing is concerned with solving the crimes that the community is concerned about and solving concerns by working with and gaining support from the community. The most effective solutions include coordinating police, government resources, citizens, and local businesses to address the problems affecting the community. They get in touch with the community in a variety of ways, including polls or surveys, town meetings, call-in programs, and meetings with interest groups. They use these connections to understand what the community wants out of its police officers and what the community is willing to do to solve the crime problem. The goal of community policing is to reduce crime and disorder by carefully examining the characteristics of the problems in neighborhoods and then applying appropriate problem-solving remedies. The community, for which a patrol officer is given responsibility for, should be small, well-defined geographical area. Beats should be configured in a manner that preserves as much as possible the unique geographical and social characteristics of a neighborhood while still allowing efficient service. Community policing consists of 2 complementary core components: community partnerships and problem solving. Patrol officers are the primary providers of police services and have the most extensive contact with community members. In community policing efforts, they will provide the bulk of the daily policing needs of the community, and they will be assisted by immediate supervisors and other police units and appropriate government and social agencies. Upper-level managers and command staff will be responsible for ensuring that the entire organization backs the efforts of patrol officers. Effective community policing depends on optimism, positive contact between patrol officers and community members. Patrol cars are only one method of conveying police services. Police departments may supplement automobile patrols with foot, bicycle, scooter, and horseback patrols, as well as adding mini stations to bring police closer to the community. Regular community meetings and forums will afford police and community members an opportunity to air concerns and find ways to address them. Officers working long-term assignments in the same shift and beat will become familiar figures to community members and will become aware of the day-to-day workings of the community. This increased police presence is an initial move in establishing trust and serves to reduce fear of crime among community members, which in turn helps create neighborhood security. Fear must be reduced if community members are to participate actively in policing. People will not act if they feel their actions will jeopardize their safety. Although the delivery of police services is organized by geographic area, A community may encompass widely diverse cultures, values, and concerns, particularly in urban settings. A community consists of more than just one, the local government and the neighborhood residents. Churches, schools, and hospitals and social groups, private and public agencies, and those who work in the area are also vital members of the community. In addition, those who visit for cultural or recreational purposes or provide services to the area are also concerned with the safety and security of the neighborhood. Including these communities of interest, in efforts to address problems of crime and disorder, can expand the resource base of the community. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I got one.
Go ahead.
When and where did community policing begin?
Oh, that's an excellent question, Troy, and you actually beat me to it. I was just about to talk about the history of community policing. I will start that now to get you your answer. The history of community policing is an interesting history. Community policing was first discussed during the birth of modern policing. Sir Robert Peel founded London's Metropolitan Police in 1829, which had 9 principles, which I will discuss later, called the Peelian Principles, in which were made to outline how modern policing should work. The principles state that the central mission of police is to prevent crime and disorder. The principles stress that police need to gain respect and willing cooperation with the public and warn the use of excessive force as detrimental to this aim. The Peelian principles are still present to this day. In the early 20th century, the rise of automobiles, telecommunications, and suburbanized transformed policing. Police focused on answering emergency calls as quickly as possible and relying on motor patrols at other times to deter crime. Now, this could cause a separation between the community. In the United States, the modern movement for community policing began in the 1980s. This came alongside the development of the broken windows theory, which is also another concept of community policing. Okay, now I'm going to go through the 9 Peelian principles. Bear with me as these are long. Number 1, to prevent crime and disorder as an alternative to their repression by military force and severity of legal punishment. Number 2, to recognize always that the power of the police to fulfill their functions and duties is dependent on the public approval of the existence, actions, and behavior, and on their ability to secure and maintain public respect. Number 3, to recognize always that to secure and maintain the respect and approval of the public also means that the securing of the willing cooperation of the public in the task of securing observance of laws. Number 4, to recognize always that the extent to which the cooperation of the public can be secured diminishes proportionately the necessity of the use of physical force and compulsion for the achieving police objectives. Number 5, to seek and preserve public favor, not by pandering to the public opinion, but by constantly demonstrating absolutely impartial service to law, in complete independence of policy, and without regard to the justice or injustice of the substance of individual laws, by readily offering up individual service and friendship to all members of the public, without regard to their wealth or social standing, by ready exercise of courtesy and friendly good humor, and by ready offering of individual sacrifice in protecting and preserving life. Number 6, to use physical force only when the exercise of persuasion, advice, and warning is found to be insufficient to obtain public cooperation to an extent necessary to secure observance of law or to restore order, and to use only the minimum degree of physical force which is necessary on any particular occasion for achieving a police objective. And number 7, to maintain at all times a relationship with the public that gives reality to the historic tradition that the police are the public and that the public are the police. The police being only members of the public who are paid to give full-time attention to duties which are incumbent on every citizen in the interests of community welfare and existence. Number 8, to recognize always the need for strict adherence to police executive functions and to refrain from even seeming to usurp the powers of the judiciary, avenging individuals or the state, and of authoritatively judging guilt and punishing the guilty. And last but not least, number 9. To recognize always that the test of police efficiency is the absence of crime and the disorder, and not the visible evidence of police action in dealing with them. Community policing is related to problem-oriented policing and intelligence-led policing, and contrasts with reactive policing strategies that were predominant in the late 20th century. It does not eliminate the need for reactive policing, though successful prevention can reduce the need for the latter. Many police forces have turned teams that focus specifically on community policing, such as neighborhood policing teams, which are separate from the more centralized units that respond to emergencies. The overall assessment of community-oriented policing is positive, as both officers and community members attest to its effectiveness in reducing crime and raising the sense of security in a community. Community policing is very important. Without community policing, the public could start to feel a separation from the police. Now, does anybody have a good guess on what could happen if the public starts to feel a separation from the police? Troy?
Maybe the people they might not trust the police.
Yes, that's part of it, and that's a great guess, Troy. If this happens, it is very easy for the public to feel like the police are enemies. Now, if this were to happen, which it often does, the public tends to not use police services and may even sometimes take matters into their own hands. This could result in more criminals getting away with crime, as the public may not want to call the police for assistance, and ultimately could result in danger. It's very important for police departments, even the ones who don't focus on community policing, to maintain a good reputation and friendship, we call it, with the public. Does anybody have any more questions? Community policing is an effective strategy that brings the police and the community together. With the many goals and methods of community policing, great measures are taken to prevent and maintain crime. Sir Robert Peel developed community policing in 1829, and since then, communities have felt more safe and secure. I'd like to thank everybody for being here today, and I hope you all have a wonderful evening.